people, if you're watching going, have they started? We've kind of started. It's just that, we start slowly because, again, I'm going to give it another 30 seconds because those of you who are watching on Twitch and supporting the Twitch channel, you may have a commercial for God knows what going on right now. I don't know what advertisement goes on there. If you're watching on LinkedIn, you're probably going, this is a professional? Yes, I'm a professional.
Absolutely.
And I just like making AJ laugh. If I ever get up into stand-up comedy, I'm going to make sure that AJ gets front row tickets.
It's true.
Welcome to the Academy of Esports podcast. I'm your host, James O'Hagan, and today I am with Ashley Jones, better known as AJ. She is the head coach at Park University in Kansas City, Missouri. She is the chair-elect for the NACE Board of Directors, which is a huge honor, and she's the vice chair of the Kansas City Esports Coalition. AJ, thank you for being a guest on the Academy, the 100th episode of the Academy of Esports podcast. Thank you.
Hello, everyone.
It is so wonderful to have you here. You are truly what we would call a unicorn in the collegiate esports space. You are not just somebody who is unique, I guess, to the esports coaching space, but you're also unique in the sense of just how involved you are and having a voice. And at a school that a lot of people, I grew up in Kansas City. I was there from, my dad moved us there in 78 and we moved in 85 right after the Royals won the World Series. And then I blamed myself for why the Royals didn't win it for another 30 years. I had never heard of Park University. And I grew up on the north side, up by the airport. So it's one of those kind of odd things. So tell us a little bit about the university, where it's located, and how you found yourself there.
Yeah, so Park, kind of in relation to Kansas City, we're probably maybe a 15-minute drive from the downtown metro area, a little bit to the north and west of the city. So we're in a small little little town called Parkville. It's got a cute little kind of downtown district with some, really cool mom and pop shops. So it's not really a huge area, but the university kind of sits nicely on top of this hill. And I really found myself here just because I was really looking for collegiate esports opportunities. Really, it was just kind of a Google search, and, I kind of stumbled across Parks when they had their job offer and their job posting. I just kind of stumbled upon it, and I was looking at their website and, seeing what it was that they were about and up to. And, I thought it was a pretty good fit. I had always lived in Florida, never lived outside of it, and thought, hey, maybe time for a change of scenery too. So it's kind of how it's how I ended up here.
And it's important to note that you are a University of Florida grad, yes. a Gator, okay, and go Gators, okay, go fine. Gators. That's fine. My boss, my supervisor, is a Florida State grad, so
So is my sister.
Oh, but it's interesting. Your background, when I did a little bit of research into you, and again, you're also part of the esports EDU chats sometimes when the season allows you on Thursday nights. And when we were kind of searching you out, I also noticed that you have a performing arts background from the from your time at the University of Florida.
I would say kind of roughly. I did. When I was at the University of Florida, I was a part of our group is called Dancing Gators, and that was a really great outlet for me, like as a college student. Being able to have dance practices and performances, and make these friends. It was honestly, it's what got me out of my dorm and away. Gave me a break from playing video games, to be honest, because video games and dancing for me, that's all I did in my undergrad. So yeah, that's kind of, and I also studied and passed, but
yeah, you earned your bachelor's in sociology, I believe. Is that correct?
Yes. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Now let me ask you this, because when we talk about the Academy of Esports, when we talk about the ecosystem within, not a lot of everybody wants to put an esports label on things, but there isn't necessarily a need, in my opinion, to put a label on everything. Did your time as being part of the Dancing Gators, right?
Uh-huh.
Okay, as part of the Dancing Gators, and I picture you guys like it's what was that, Fantasia, where they have the dancing?
Yes.
Alligator. Okay.
Oh, wonderful callback.
Did that prepare you at all for the role that you're in right now, or is that did it prepare you for how you've maybe seen your esports program?
That's actually a good question, and I never really thought about that, but honestly, it probably did. With being a part of the Dancing Gators, we were completely student run, so all of the dances that we had, the semester shows that we put on at the end of the semester, it was all choreographed by students. The show was put on, announced by students. Students were the ones that were dancing. So, I had never had choreography experience before I joined Dancing Gators. So, I was kind of able to join first as a dancer, and then I kind of grew into being a choreographer as well, which really kind of helped push me creatively. And I think I was able to come up with and having to deal with other students and coordinating practices and dances. Honestly, it probably has helped me now that I think about it in my time right now. So yeah, that's a fun thought. I never thought about that.
Well, and it's something, again, there's a lot of educators who I know are really intimidated right now of the idea of stepping in to become an esports coach or to oversee a program, because, again, this is so new. And I have a background in elementary education, but I also got a minor in coaching. And I can tell you that the things I learned from taking classes in coaching philosophy, even working with the Purdue football team and the Purdue basketball teams when I was there, those things, there's a lot of translation between athletics and what we do with esports. But again, with performing arts, there's still those nerves, right? Before you get on stage. Even my time in the marching band, going out in front of 65, where Purdue, when I was Purdue, was lucky to get 10,000 in the stands. They're so bad. Sometimes I felt there were more band members on the field than there were fans in the stands. But those kind of things, have you found them to help to prepare maybe your own students who are involved with your esports program? The more that I sit here and think about it, I really think that it does. Especially since, especially with like the first time freshmen, the transfer students that, really haven't had, they've never been a part of an esports team. Some of them have never even been a part of an athletics team in general. So this is kind of their first introduction to competing as a team where, the stakes are high and, in order to make it for playoffs, you got to win a bunch of games. So, I do think being able to kind of use my own experience of like, hey, I choreographed this whole piece. I've got to teach this whole piece to all of these dancers. I got to do formations and block and make sure that people are understanding and getting it. On top of, okay, it's show day. Put on a happy face and get out there and do it. So there's a lot of similarities, really. I know about that performance because I remember one time in college, we had a big party, we shall say, one night before a major performance.
Oh,
there was a couple of people who didn't make it that day, and boy, did our director. And that's the thing too. We don't take, if we don't take it seriously, nobody else does, right?
Yeah.
And that when you have a match, when you have a performance, when you have to be on stage, and as you said, put on that face, like you have to like turn it on. That's a hard thing for some people to get, especially when, as you were saying, somebody who's new to esports or new to competition in general, who hasn't ever competed, it's very easy for them to go, well, I'm not feeling well today, I'm just not coming. You know, and I know that's a hard habit to break with some of our high school kids even.
Yeah. Right. I think there are more students that try to I think they try to maybe hide it. Like, they don't want to show their other teammates that they're like kind of freaking out on the inside, and they've got like competition jitters. I think I've found it to be I have found that a lot of my students are starting to open up more, especially as they get more comfortable with their teammates and more comfortable with me as a coach. So I think that they're more open to kind of talking about that and being honest with each other when they are like, all right, I've got my jitters. I'm trying to work them out, and try if they maybe don't do so well in the first round or what. Oh my goodness. In the first round or what have you.
Those of you who are only listening and just heard an odd break, I thought AJ had blown out the lights in her studio, but they're motion censored and she's
sure
not moving around. Yes. So apologies to people. We're just having fun tonight. This is already a hoot, if you will. Now, being at Park University again, a lot of people, they've heard of the Ohio States, and obviously they heard of University of Florida, and you know, some people even hear of Purdue, though everybody seems to think Purdue is this Ivy League school out in Pennsylvania. I'm like, nope, Indiana. Let me ask you this. How do you, because I see you have a background even as a social media director in the past, how do you get the word out, or how do you start making connections to let kids know that, hey, Park University is here, we have an esports program, we are looking to work with you? How do you start or get into that conversation with recruiting?
Yeah,
because that seems to be a really hard thing for colleges right now.
It is. It's a little rough, and now with the extra layer of COVID has made it even more difficult. But for me personally, I try to kind of focus on three major things when it comes to recruiting. Kind of looking at my roster, I'd say about 80% of my roster are from students that are within the Kansas City area, within 30 minutes to an hour of campus. Other than that, I go from like, here's my little Kansas City circle, and then I've got like 3 or 4 international athletes as well. So for me, I really try to kind of focus on the community here within Kansas City. So working with my admissions department to get connected with high schools that I know either have esports clubs or they also maybe have varsity programs. So trying to connect with admissions to local schools. The second thing that I do is try to stay connected with the different gaming groups and communities within Kansas City. We partnered for about a year with Casey Game On, which is a local it's a local group here in Kansas City. They meet every other month. I think they meet like 4 times a year. And they're just big LAN parties. And we would have and we hosted those LAN parties on campus. So we would have 200 people within the academic underground on campus that were here all day and all night gaming. So wow. All I had to do was walk down the hallway and see a bunch of people playing video games, tap them on the shoulder. Hey, let's go check out the parkade. Are you interested? So
did you just call it the parkade?
Yeah, that's what we call our space, our facility.
That's brilliant.
Yeah, it's the Parkade Battlegrounds. Is its full God-given Christian name, of course. So that's kind of like the second piece that I focus on, is trying to stay connected to the gaming community that's within Kansas City. And then the third one, which one is been a little bit hit or miss for me, just kind of using some of those more traditional websites, like your Be Recruited website, NCSA website. They've, beefed it up where there's like esports components. So they're starting to become more prevalent. I think more high school students are starting to learn about them. So I'm hoping more services like that, some that are more esports centered and focused, so we can really capture all of the data that we're looking for sort of pop up. But
what are you looking for
in an athlete?
Well, yeah, I mean, you just say data, so
yeah.
let's explore that, because I know that, again, there's people there's going to be high school coaches. One of the ways I've profess to our high school general managers is to say, you know what, reach out to a college and just set up a scrim. And I think you've actually done that with one of our teams here in Racine.
Yes,
I think
we did.
Yeah.
It was a lot of fun.
And here's the thing too, it isn't just setting up the scrim, but it is also taking the time after to have kind of like that after action where you talk about what worked well, what didn't work well. Does anybody have any tips, things like that? But when you are, what is some of the data points you're looking for when you are recruiting a student to Park?
Yeah, so a lot of the things that, you know, when I kind of get them like for like an initial Discord or Zoom call, really, I just try to get to learn more about them, how long they've been playing the game, what their highest rank is, why they're interested in esports at all. But then, you know, I really also try to focus on, okay, so what are you looking for in an esports program, but also what are you looking for with your higher education? Do you want a school that's close to home? Do you want to move as far away as possible? Do you want a small private? Do you want a big D1 school? What career path are you looking for? What majors are you looking for? So different things like that, I think are, you know, they are student athletes, with student being the first most important part. So I think that with my first initial calls, I always make sure that what it is that they are looking for is, you know, something that we're able to offer them.
What would you say if outside of food, because I'm going to ask you a food question at the end of this, just because, you know, well, you and I know how I am about food, and I know you're an eater. You're a person who loves eat the cooking of others, we shall say.
I consume, I don't create. Yes.
But outside of the Kansas City Fair, what is one of the things that Park University has to offer that you usually say, you know, did you know about this?
The first thing that I really try to, so here's this big Park thing that's like pretty unique to us. I think the first thing that I really try to highlight is our facility that we do have on campus, and it being completely underground. Definitely coming from Florida, being underground doesn't make sense.
Yeah, you're in water at that point.
Yeah, right. So like being like, we've got, I mean, I'm in the underground right now. You know, there's classrooms down here and the bookstores down here. Like there's a good portion of the campus that's actually underground, and the Parkade Battlegrounds pretty much sits right in the right in kind of the cross section corridor of the underground. So that's definitely one of the highlights, is like we've got this cool underground space on campus, but then also once you get above campus, you know, we're kind of built into a hill, and we've got on the other side of the highway, you've got this huge, beautiful view of the Missouri River, which right on the other side is Kansas too. So, you know, it's kind of interesting to just, the campus is really unique. And, you know, that's honestly, when I was looking at different places to go to for, you know, esports coaching, that's one of the things that stood out to me for Park, is just how unique and awesome the campus was.
That's not to be discounted either, the location close to the Missouri River, because there's, you know, I think people seem to think that it's all just flat and ugly and brown and stuff. And there is really, again, as a kid who grew up in that area, I just have these tremendously wonderful memories of Kansas City, especially being north of the river. There was a lot of stuff south of the river where it kind of cuts around through the city. And yes, there is a Kansas City, Missouri, and there's a Kansas City, Kansas. There are two. They are not the same. They, you know, just so people know. But I think that's an important thing to sell too, is just how beautiful the area can be and is. Yeah. And how intimate it sounds, the way you're describing it. Again, as you said, that D1 experience versus the small college. Park is not a large university that's going to, So that intimacy is also sometimes very valuable. How many kids do you have as part of your esports program at Park?
So we have, this semester, we're up to 19 total athletes across 4 different teams and 3 different titles.
Do you have any assistant coaches? Do you have an assistant staff?
I have one assistant coach, and he primarily focuses on the Overwatch team. So he also works in Park's IT department. So that's his day job. And then he volunteer coaches for us, for practices and competition.
I know that trying to manage that much at one time must be harrowing, but it seems like you do a pretty good job of keeping it all together, at least for the time being.
Yes.
Okay.
I will say we do also plan on adding Valorant starting in the fall semester.
Ooh.
So with the addition of another new title, and that will hopefully bring in about 6 or 7 new athletes that are dedicated to Valorant. At that point in time, I'm gonna have to tap out, and I'm gonna need some additional staff to try to help out. So hopefully within the next first half of the year, we're able to kind of secure some additional staffing to help me with the beast.
Now, shifting gears a little slightly, let's expand the circle a little bit. Let's talk about the Kansas City area, because you're also part of you're actually the vice president of the Kansas City Esports Coalition. Now, I know that there's similar coalitions. There's one in Atlanta. There's one in Pittsburgh, I believe. Kansas City, and we have one now starting in Milwaukee. And I'm not going to lie, taking some inspiration, not copying it completely, but taking some inspiration from the Kansas City folk. Just a little bit. So tell us, what is the purpose of this coalition? Why did Kansas City feel, or people around Kansas City feel, that it was important to form this group?
I think for us, we've got a lot just right within Kansas City that is, just so centered around esports. We've got multiple universities in the area that got, collegiate programs. You've got NACE, which is headquartered in
we'll talk about that
Kansas,
in a second.
Yeah, which their headquarters is in Kansas City. We've got the Kansas City Pioneers, which is our professional team, again, right here in Kansas City. So, there's almost this kind of perfect pipeline where, we've also got high school programs here, then we're getting into college, and then, we've got a professional scene that, hopefully we'll be able to get that pipeline going and transfer, but also, not so much even as, talent acquisition, but we also have career options too within NACE. Esports Supply is here. Populous, we've got people here from Populous. So there's just a lot that is going in the right direction for Kansas City. So we just felt that we needed to all get together and capitalize on it while it getting was hot.
Well, and then you also have Generation Esports, which has a high school esports league. Yeah,
right.
So that's all right there. So so the purpose of it is more, I guess, to bring along and similar coalitions. Really try, because I know. I'll share this little story. So Mike Dolly and I were here in Wisconsin. And it's like you hear about these people, but you don't necessarily meet them. And I remember I met Mike for the first time at we had like a panel at the 88.9 Radio Milwaukee studios up here in Milwaukee. And it was kind of like sniffing each other. Like the first time we met each other, it was like, sniffing each other out kind of thing. Like, who's this person? Who's this person? I've heard of you. I don't know you, But then you kind of find out that everybody's on the same page. These coalitions, I think, are important for communities because, there are a lot. The scene is growing so fast. There's a lot of people who are interested, and it's a good way to get to know the players, network, find commonalities, find synergies. There's a lot of good people who want to get into this space who maybe just don't know where to begin.
Yeah, and that's kind of another thing is like we're hoping to kind of get this pipeline going for the community, but also just making sure that there is that ability for the community to like participate and get involved if they are interested. There are some companies that are interested in getting into esports or learning more about it. So, if they've got a resource that's right in their backyard to like reach out to first and be like, hey, this is really cool. How do we get involved? How can we participate? I do think that these sort of city-centered coalitions, I think is probably a really good place for them to start and get information.
Yeah, and again, I think especially as it's growing up in a lot of cities, it's a great starter for conversations as well too. Mm-hmm. Now to kind of shift us again a little bit further out and broader, again, because you are just an amazing person. You're all over the place. Also heavily involved with NACE. Now, I know of NACE, mm-hmm. but what is NACE really trying to do? Because I know that, like, there's conversations for years about the NCAA, and the NCAA is going to get involved in esports, and it's like, God, I just don't want the NCAA involved in esports. I want them to stay away. But what is NACE and their role in all of this? What are they up to, and how are you going to fit into the work that they're trying to do?
Yeah, so, we're completely a member-driven organization. I think at this point we have over 150 schools that are NACE members. So, our board of directors, we're all made up of different NACE institutions. We've got a competition council, and everybody that sits on that council is also part of member institutions. So, the competition council, their main job is to create meaningful competition for our NACE institutions. So, last semester we ran Valorant tournament, Rocket League, Overwatch. This upcoming semester we're going to have Fortnite and CSGO, Madden, FIFA. So that's definitely one of the things that we're trying to bring to NACE. Most importantly is having competition that is good and solid, because there are some other collegiate tournaments out there that, they're allowing club sports in. And sometimes with the club sports, they're not as regulated as varsity programs. So you lose out on a lot of, there could be no call, no shows. There could be, folks that just don't communicate to you in order to get matches even started. So trying to create, purposeful, meaning competition is definitely one of them. And then another thing is just making sure that we're creating, a collegiate space in regards to, player health, and making sure that, they've got to, they've got to stay in good academic standing within their institution. So creating guidelines to make sure that, our esports athletes are, they're getting their good grades, they're graduating on time. Path to graduation is really important too. So, just trying to help with that as well has definitely been a focus for us too.
That's been something I think that's been a concern of mine, and I don't know how big of a topic this is in NACE, but let's just take from your position, your expertise. I worry about college programs that, kind of like how football or basketball in some schools have become mills, right? The kids go there for the one and done for basketball, or they're only there for football for a couple of years before they go to the NFL. What is that something that we're going to be surprised, I think, when the data starts coming out about graduation rates with esports programs? Or do you think we'll be pleasantly surprised when we start seeing graduation rates that are coming out with regards to schools and esports programs? What's your gut telling you? My
gut. I think just with my experience within NACE and my experience within my own program, I think that we're going to be pleasantly surprised. The fall semester has just ended. So, we've gotten to the point where we're doing our fall semester, grade checks and making sure that, they took their classes, they passed, and, they're enrolled for spring. Honestly, even with COVID and having a lot of the students, have all online, or they maybe have one class that is in person one day a week. Even with all of the struggles of that, my students personally have still succeeded so well within this environment. I think I had like 5 students that had 4.0s in the fall semester.
Wonderful.
So, yeah. So, I mean, I personally think that, I think the esports athletes I think they're pretty adaptable. I think they're working hard because they are in this really cool, new, exciting experience of being a part of a college esports team. And some of them are like, they're my first Rocket League team, and they, I think they're really proud of that. So I think they all work really hard at, making sure they get done what they need to.
Has that been something that's been discussed through NACE, is looking at, and I'm just out of curiosity because I don't know, and I'm not trying to put you on the spot, but that is something I would definitely be very interested in learning more about, would be, what are the graduation rates looking like, even if it's a blind study, even if it's just, if as the chair-elect for the board of directors, I think that would be a fascinating thing for NACE to take up and say, look, let's look critically at where our student athletes are in our programs, and let's make the case, are we exceeding graduation rates, or do we have work to do? Because ultimately, I know that the colleges are doing this in a lot of cases to drive revenue, because there are declining collegiate enrollments. In fact, with COVID, we're going to have even bigger problems. Right. And I know the hardest thing to do right now is to make the case in the face of deficits that are potentially looming that, this college esports program may or may not be worth the time and the effort. So, there needs to be, I think, a big, huge, spotlight put on this, hopefully. And at least with you, it sounds like you'll be able to, if asked, by the Park University, trustees, well, Ms. Jones, tell us, can you really speak to the quality of your program? And and you can say, hey, here's graduation rates, GPAs, so
it's definitely something that it was definitely brought up to us at our last convention, kind of within the leadership groups, is getting that data, trying to see what we can do and how we can collect it in order to, like you said, to, hey, put it out there, like, hey, this is working, this works. Not only are we getting athletes into our institutions, but we're also keeping them for that, their full tenure. We're keeping them to graduation and then moving on to cool stuff.
Right. Yeah. And as of course with esports, it does, once you have that degree, and it doesn't have to be an esports degree, they can go do, if you need to see the image, those of you who do not follow me on Twitter handles in my screen here, or go to @JimO'Hagan. Pinned to the top of my profile, I have that image that shows that big ecosystem of where these degrees can take them, even in the esports ecoverse. Yes. So ecoverse, I like that word better than ecosystem.
Yes, me too. Yes.
Ecoverse. The ecoverse. Just like the parkade battle arena.
Yes.
Now let's get into the less serious portion of the interview. Okay, but before we do, I did need to touch on too that you and I both come from backgrounds of performing arts in college. Mine was music, yours was dance. Those things, as you said, I think you started at the beginning, and I didn't touch on this, but I want to reemphasize this. You said that was the thing sometimes that got you out of your dorm room.
Yeah, it definitely was. And I think, like, when I kind of look back at my college experience, I might be dating myself a little bit here, but like while I was in college was when League of Legends came out, is when like their first season was when I was in college. So, my first year of undergrad, I played a lot of WoW. My second year of undergrad, I played a lot of Black Ops. But then, my last 2 years of undergrad, it was all League of Legends. And, I built up a friend group, within the university of other students that played a lot of League of Legends. And, there's still people that I talk to this day. So, I think for me, esports and college, other than dance, like those were my two homes. And I think that being able to give that to other students, when I know that for me it was so meaningful, that's one of the top reasons that I do this job and that I love this job so much.
I agree with that it was when I was at my worst, which was my first semester of my sophomore year. I don't know if I'll call it depression or what, but band was the only class that I regularly went to every day. I failed Physics 152. I failed calculus. I got a D, I don't know how, in chemistry, and that was my major.
Ooh.
Yeah. And then I got an A in band. So, and that was the thing that kept me in. So again, these programs we know are really important. All these things that we do that connect us to the universities and their schooling are all really important things. Now, you said WoW, Black Ops, League of Legends. What's a game that you're playing right now that you're doing for fun, not something because you have to for your program, but what's something that you're enjoying right now?
So mostly what I've played recently is Valorant. We are adding it in the fall, but also I'm finding a lot of fun with Valorant. But then, like, for fun, you know, I'm one of those people that I really like kind of circling back to games. So, you know, I've done recent run-throughs of the Arkham series again. Things like BioShock.
Don't play that with your children around, by the way.
Yeah, no, probably not BioShock either. It scares me.
BioShock is a fantastic storyline.
Oh, wonderful! Yeah, absolutely. But those are probably. I'd say those are the ones that I, you know, kind of play for me, just as kind of my fun things, is kind of going back to those really awesome series.
All right, now, food question.
Yes.
Okay. Now, I have a couple of personal favorites that I know are still around Kansas City. I have great memories with them. If you had to take somebody out for dinner in Kansas City and you needed to take them to an ultimate Kansas City dining experience, so we're not talking like take them to, you know, Applebee's or anything like that.
Yeah.
Where are you taking them?
I'm taking them to Joe's.
What is Joe's? I've not heard of Joe's.
It was I know that they changed it. It used maybe Oklahoma Joe's was it. I think that's what it was called before. It was just called Joe's.
Okay.
But Joe's Kansas City Barbecue. That's it. That's the one.
Now, I know that the barbecue scene has grown up. For me, it's always going to be Bryant's, and it's going to be Bryant's in the hood, where it's like 6 inches of bulletproof glass, and you have to. So, I'll tell you a funny story. Went and got Bryant's again in the hood, you know, driving in a Volvo in the one of the worst neighborhoods in Kansas City, but got the barbecue, and it comes wrapped in brown paper, right? And here's what I did: went to the Crown Center, which is the Hallmark headquarters. It's like a mall, and opened up that barbecue and ate in the middle of the Crown Center, just like a mess all over the place.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, so I highly recommend trying doing that.
That's awesome.
Now, have you ever heard of Stroud's?
No, I haven't.
Maybe they're closed. Oh my God, I hope they're not. They do the most amazing fried chicken.
Okay, I'm a big fried chicken person, so I must check this out immediately.
Don't make the mistake that I made, though. They are family style dinners. So when you say I'll have a chicken dinner and I'll have a chicken dinner, no. Order one chicken dinner. Because you will get like 4. It's like that line from the Blues Brothers. I'll have 4 fried chickens and a Coke. I mean, it's like that's what comes out. So be careful.
That's awesome. Okay, I'll have to look that one up for sure.
Yeah, Stroud's for me is if I'm going back there and I had one choice, I'm going for Stroud's.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you're getting. But again, it could be out of business for all I know. So
that'd be sad.
I would be sad. Ashley, any final thoughts? Sorry, AJ. Any final thoughts for the podcast here? Other than we will be sure that we will still snag you for our esports EDU chats on Thursday night.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
While you're still while you're out of season.
Fine. It's super cool that this is like the 100th episode. Like, gosh, that's a lot. You've done a lot. That's so cool.
Well, and it wasn't a consistent when I first started, it was like, oh gosh, how do I fill all of this? And now I'm consistent week to week, which is great. So
yeah. So cool. Yeah. I'm just happy to be a part of it. I just think it's awesome.
Thank you. Well, thank you for being the 100th episode guest. That was really kind of special because let's put it this way. You really are a unicorn in the space. You really are unique. You really are a leader in something that a lot of people need to. You need to be seen. You need to be heard because you have, again, where you have your leadership roles, where you have your leadership positions. It's important. It really is. And I know it's a big burden to sometimes carry. Maybe sometimes you don't even realize it, but for people, especially for women in the space who feel underrepresented, you are out there going, I'm going to represent, damn it. And
yeah. Yes. Absolutely. And I think that, there's definitely a lot of folks that, will come to me and be like, oh, hey, come be on this panel. Come be on this panel.
We're going to use that word too. Ecoverse and panel.
Come be on this panel and talk about, like diversity and inclusion. So, I speak to that about, as much as I can, but, at the end of the day, I just want people to go for it. I think it definitely, this job was not what I expected when I had first gotten here. But really at this point in time, I really wouldn't want anything other than what I'm doing. So, I think that I'm creating a good space for my athletes specifically. I mean, half of my Overwatch roster it's split 50-50 male and female. So, I've got, others that are, part of the LGBTQ, oh my gosh, area. So, I just hope that I'm able to create a space that students are able to feel safe in, enjoy and be able to just look back fondly on their college years and, and have good feelings about it, be proud of what they did.
And I'm glad that you're leading the charge in that, AJ. AJ, Ashley Jones, head coach at Park University. Thank you so much for being the 100th, or not the 100th guest, being a part of the 100th episode of the Academy of Esports podcast today.
I love it. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
That will do it for this week on the Academy of Esports. I've been your host, James O'Hagan. Esports are organized competitive video games allowing schools to redefine their athletic culture, diversify opportunities for student participation, promote good physical and mental health, increase collegiate scholarship pathways, and play games. We can never forget the importance of play. The mission of the Academy of Esports is to support these ideals. The vision of the Academy of Esports is for all students to experience the fun and joy of playing competitive video games. You may follow me on Twitter at Jim O'Hagan. That's at JIMOHAGAN, and through the Academy of Esports account at TAO Esports. It's a great way to get the latest blog posts, podcast episodes, and news coming out of esports and education. And remember, you can continue your engagement by going to www.taoesports.com. You can also connect through Facebook at www.facebook.com/TAOesports. Thanks again for listening, and I look forward to our time again next week.